Chapter 11. 2 days have passed since my dad's death, and I have not been able to sleep. I was not sure if Henry was able to sleep or not, because he had not left his room, but I assumed he did not either. When I brought food to him yesterday, he simply cracked the door open to grab it from me, but he did not say anything. While he found comfort in his room, I stayed in the living room and retreated to a corner. I held onto a pillow, had my back facing the wall, and all the curtains shut. The mayor came to my house with his daughter a few minutes past noon to check on me and Henry. They talked about having a funeral for our dad and said they would drive our mom home from the airport when she arrived. I simply thanked them, and they left shortly after. Once they did, I got a call from Suzanne. It was probably the 30th time she called me since she left the other day, but I did not answer any of them. She also sent multiple text messages, but I did not respond to them either. After she called this time, I heard her shouting to me from the door as she knocked on it. I slowly walked over to open it. "It's about time you answered something," Suzanne said as she walked inside. "I was worried about you." "You know I'm upset," I replied quietly. "Well, I decided I'm going to keep you company. I don't feel like you should be completely alone." She went to go sit down on one of the chairs. "I'm not completely alone. Henry is still here, and my mom will be here by tomorrow morning." "Okay, but I just want to be here for you during your struggles, to help you feel better. I promise I won't cuddle you or sit near you, and if you still feel uncomfortable, I'll leave right away." "Okay, fine." Just then, I saw Elizabeth walking up to the door, and she waved to me. "Elizabeth is here too," Suzanne stated. "I can see that," I replied as I let her inside. "Hey Thomas," Elizabeth said. "How are you feeling?" "The same as I was feeling 2 days ago," I responded. "I'm sorry." Elizabeth started looking around the room. "Where's Henry?" "He's upstairs in his room, but he doesn't want to be bothered." She seemed to ignore my last words because she went upstairs to talk to Henry anyways. I did not try to stop her though. I was actually hoping she could find a way to make Henry feel a little bit better. "I'm sorry I kicked you out the other day," I said to Suzanne as I walked to the couch and sat down. "It's okay," she replied. "I understand, but I hope you're okay with me being here now. I really feel like you need to be around people who love you. That's why I decided to come over." I smiled a little when she said that, and look, she reached into her purse. "I borrowed that new movie from Richard. We can watch it together if you want." I did not think I would be interested in the movie, but I wanted her to keep her positive attitude. It was actually making me feel happier today. "Let's watch it," I said. She smiled and put the movie in. After she put the movie in, she sat on the couch with me, but sat as far away as she could. I grabbed her arm and pulled her closer to me. Then she put my arm around her and she started cuddling me. It made me feel a little better to be with Suzanne and to watch a movie with her. Even though I was not interested in the movie, Suzanne was, and really seemed to be enjoying it. Seeing her happy made me feel even better. "I have to use the bathroom," Suzanne said after the movie had been playing for around 30 minutes. She then got up and left the room. I continued to watch the movie, but started feeling sleepy without Suzanne to keep me entertained. The movie was really boring to me, and I was probably going to fall asleep, but I suddenly heard someone calling my name. "Thomas! Thomas! Over here!" the voice called out. It sounded like it came from an older man. I looked around the room, but could not see who was calling my name. "Look at the screen," the voice then said. I did as the voice commanded, and saw one of the main characters in the movie looking at me. "Yeah, I'm the one talking to you." I did not know how to respond. I just stared at the screen. I knew I had to be hallucinating. "I gotta tell you something important," the character on the TV said. "I know your town is in danger. The clue to solving it is in the numbers. Pay attention." He stopped speaking to me directly and started conversating with other characters in the movie. After that strange hallucination, I realized I had been awake for way too long and needed to sleep. When Suzanne came back, I didn't say a word about what just happened in my head. I just let her get comfy under my arm, then I went to sleep. The next morning, I woke up and saw Suzanne in the kitchen. She made breakfast for me and Henry. "Good morning, baby," she said as she brought the food to me. She then went upstairs to bring Henry his food. The TV was off, so I turned it on, though I hardly paid attention to it. I could not stop thinking about the weird hallucination from yesterday. The clue to solving it is in the numbers. The imaginary phrase repeated in my head. I tried to think about any numbers I remembered seeing after the murder started happening. Once I did, I quickly thought of a reoccurring number that the criminal could possibly be associating their crimes with. The number 4. The strange call I received repeated the number multiple times. The storm was stated to come in 4 days by the same caller. On that 4th day, during the storm, the first murders took place in house number 49. The last name of the victims could also be a possible reason why they were targeted. The 4 men's. I couldn't think of how it connected everything that happened together, but it still seemed to have something to do with the situation. "Are you okay?" I heard Suzanne ask. I looked over and saw her sitting next to me, which I had not noticed. I smiled at her and said, "Yeah, I'm okay." I stood up to put my dishes in the sink. "I might have figured out what the killer's pattern is," I stated. Suzanne looked at me shocked. "That's amazing," she replied. "Do you think there's a way to stop him?" "Well, I don't know if what I'm thinking is correct, but I at least want to tell Hector about it." I quickly picked up my phone and called Richard, hoping he would still be around Hector, which he was. Richard was at his house with Hector when I called, so they arrived to my house quickly. Once they did, Henry came downstairs with Elizabeth. "I thought that was our mom," Henry said to me. "Sorry," I responded. "I invited Richard and Hector over. I have something important to tell them that could help solve this murder case." "That's right," Hector said. "So tell me what your idea is." "Well, I was thinking that the killer might be attacking within time frames of 4, or people or places that are marked by the number 4. The 4 men's name obviously is spelled with 4, and the house they lived in was number 49. Again, this obviously has a 4 in it. The call I received kept mentioning the number 4, and said a storm would come in 4 days. This could be a coincidence, but that is when the murder happened." I took a pause. That's really all I could think of, but it could mean something. The room was silent for a few seconds. Everyone seemed to be thinking about what I stated. "Interesting idea," Hector replied. "Charlie's house number was 54, so that could explain why he was killed. Obviously, we would need more evidence to find out if this is true, and if it's the only method to his pattern. But I'm just glad we have at least a possible connection to look at." I was happy that Hector thought my idea was a possible pattern for the killer, but hearing him confirm that Charlie had been killed stung me. I did not feel like saying anything about it was necessary at the moment. I simply sighed in disappointment and thought of something else I could say to carry on the conversation. "Did you or Richard find anything out in the last 2 days?" I asked Hector. "Yeah," Hector answered. "I found out that Charlie did find something in the house you last investigated. But more importantly, Jaqual isn't the killer. He wasn't in Windwasher when the murder took place, and the Foremans are his cousins." "I still think he did it," Richard said. "He literally can't be the one who killed the Foremans. He had proof he was somewhere else when it happened. He could be helping with everything else that's happened, but we didn't find proof, and he didn't have a motive. As far as we know. Hector rolled his eyes. Hopefully, the theory I brought up can find more suspects, I said. Does anyone have any ideas to add to it? Nobody answered at first, but after a few seconds, Richard chimed in. I have something to say against it, he said. The foreman's house has a number 9 in it, and so does the house we went to the night Charlie died. 99 Blakestone Street, 2 9s and no 4s. So maybe the 4 doesn't apply to what the killer is doing at all. We didn't find any crimes committed at that house, I replied, so I feel like that shouldn't factor against that pattern. Okay, well what about your dad being murdered? Hector said that the killer was probably the one who caused the car crash. So what does your dad have to do with the number 4? I got a little angry from Richard bringing up my father's death so bluntly. I looked over at Henry, who also seemed to be irritated from the way Richard brought up his death. I took a deep breath in and out before I started speaking. I don't know, I said. Maybe the killer wasn't the one who did it. Or if he did, maybe it's just because the speed limit on the street is 40 mph. Oh, really? Richard replied. If it can be something that broad related to the number 4, then it won't help us figure anything out. Maybe someone blinked 4 times, and that's enough to justify him attacking you. It's just a theory, Richard. Yeah, Hector said, agreeing with me. Plus, just because we can't think of the connection right away, that doesn't mean there isn't one. There was a moment of silence. Our dad might have actually had something major that aligns with that pattern, Henry stated. We all looked at him. He shed a tear before speaking again. He turned 44 years old, exactly 4 months ago. So this idea might actually have some weight to it, Hector responded. He walked around in circles for a moment and scratched his head as he started thinking. It's strange. I feel like I've heard of something like this before, but I don't remember where. He started looking around the house, seemingly to find something to jog his memory. Perhaps you've read The Tale of Mr. Sketchy, Richard suggested. Hector's eyes went wide. That's exactly what I was thinking of. The tale of who? I asked. The Tale of Mr. Sketchy, Hector restated. It's a fictional story that just recently came out. An unidentifiable man who creates clones of himself, and it drives around at 2 a.m. He and his clones hypnotize every 4th person they see, then attack them. 4 days after, he restarts the process. It's a pretty short story. It does sound a little similar to what's happening here, Henry stated. That means someone or a few people could have taken a strong interest in that story and decided to mimic it. Then we have to find out who those people are, I said. Everyone nodded in agreement. Just then, I heard the sound of keys unlocking the front door. I turned around and smiled, for I already knew who was entering the house. My mom walked in and instantly walked over to me and Henry. She gave us hugs and kisses as she started to cry. We've missed you, Mom, Henry said as he started crying too. I missed you boys too, she responded. Hi, Mrs. Dunn, Suzanne said. Hi, you're Suzanne, right? Yes, that's me. I'm sorry about your loss. Suzanne shed a tear. I'm sorry about your loss too, Elizabeth added. Thank you, girls, my mom responded. I am also sorry, Hector stated. I will excuse myself right now so that I am able to search for more clues. Hector walked to the door quickly and left the house. Everyone started leaving one by one until it was just me, Henry, and our mom. The 3 of us were in a group hug for a few moments, as we each cried. Eventually, our mom decided to make some food for us. Once she did, we sat at the table and ate quietly. Having each other as company was enough to make me feel a little better. But I knew it was never going to take away all the sadness. I could tell Henry and our mom felt the same. Henry suddenly broke the silence right after he finished eating. I miss Dad, he said. I know, sweetheart, our mom replied. He would want you both to remain strong through these tough times. It's really hard to be without him, I replied. It's always going to be hard now, but we will have to keep living with what's happened. Our mom started crying once again. Your father will always be in our hearts. This pain is too much, Henry stated, as he also started to cry again. We can't let anyone else suffer through pain like this. And we won't, I replied. We will help Hector find the killer. You boys better not put yourselves in any danger, our mom said. The mayor told me everything that's been happening. It's okay to help, but leave the dangerous stuff to the professionals. I promise we are going to stay out of danger, Mom. We only want to look for clues when possible. Yeah, Henry agreed with me. Thomas already gave the detective a great clue just before you got here. That's great, our mom stated. It might be, I replied, if the clue turns out to be a fact. I hope it helps them catch the killer.